not too long ago we did a comparison with Big Ramy and Brandon Curry's physiques using their pictures from the Olympia, and some new information's come out.
This video on YouTube came out. He looks massive. Dennis the Menace, who has exclusive access to Big Ramy, posted a picture, and he looks incredible. We need to add, maybe this guy is really focused and ready to go.
Chris, great condition at 336.
Oh yes, skin looks paper thin. Some people think he's too ahead of schedule. I like where he's sitting at. I like his chances, and yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Either way, always just the facts here on Primetime Muscle. The comparisons were real, and we can't wait to see them on stage next to each other. Hello and welcome to Primetime Muscle, all divisions of pro bodybuilding, fitness, wellness, figure, bikini. We're going to be talking about it all. I'm Tim Wilkins, joined by super promoter and IFBB pro judge Terrick Elguindy.
Tim, I'm so honored to be here with you, United States Marine Corps, and one of the great master of ceremonies, and also here with my great friend Chris Cormier, the real deal, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times.
Hall of Fame Chris Cormier, you're looking good, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I did my best. Let's do what I could.
Well, the clothes are good, and Terrick did a nice job on the tie.
Yeah, that's my tie guy.
And let's give credit to Chanel, who did the makeup, okay? Chanel did amazing. We need to give her credit. She got Chris from Bill Cosby to Will Smith in a second. So this woman is a miracle worker. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you that right now. Let's just give her credit.
Okay.
A big shout out to Chanel. So we're going to start things off. There are searches constantly, apparently, people are popping up around the world. Amazing bodybuilders. We're starting off with Michael Krizo.
Well, Tim, I think Chris and I have been following this guy for a while. He was with a different organization, and obviously he is massive. His arms are humongous, and he looked like one of the best pros. And as most pros have done in the past, they want to compete against the best bodybuilders in the world. The best bodybuilders in the world are with the IFBB Pro League, and they want to win the Mr. Olympia. So right off the bat, I give credit to this guy for saying, hey, listen, I'm going to go where the best competitors are, and I'm going to try to be the best. Now, physically, I think he is one of the mass monsters. His arms are huge. He has great potential, but I think once you start posing him against Big Ramy and Brandon Curry, we might see some weaknesses. Right, Chris? We were talking about it.
Yes, but I like his attitude. He's a fighter. He's scrappy. I like the way he was coming at the guys in the Pro League, even though he was at the other federation. And I like that right off the bat. And I actually greeted him on the DM, telling him good job and welcome to the Pro League, and hope to see great things out of you.
Okay, you give Chris a hard time about a lot of stuff. Getting a DM from Chris as an up-and-comer has got to make somebody from Slovakia, from any country, from America go, this is amazing. This is a blessing from above.
Well, yeah, I think Chris Cormier is world renowned as one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times. But Chris has a great point. This guy was poking at some of the current pros while he was on the other federation, right? It was Sergio Oliva, it was Nick Walker. So he wasn't scared, and then he actually comes, so you got to give him credit. He's a courageous one.
Okay, there's some credit for there, but you got to be out of your mind. When you're in some, I don't want to say small league, but what was that? The Federation World Wildlife Fund. I don't know what it is, what those letters even stand for. But you're going after the beasts of this sport and the top 5, top 7. Sergio crushed the Arnold, 2 or 3 years ago. He's a legacy. What kind, I don't know the Slovakian word for this that I'm trying to think of, but I'm thinking it's chutzpah is the nice way.
I was going to say cojones.
I'm going with cojones.
He's got cojones.
Yes, but you can tell the type of mindset this guy has. I mean, I think he's ready for the step, the challenge, and he actually made like a trip to America, going around some of the top legends, and I think that's been like one of the things I admire about him the most. He wasn't afraid to just come over here and get scrutinized by all the best of the world.
And what's his path? And as a judge, as a pro, does he have to do nationals and get his pro card? Do they accept the pro card from somewhere else?
A fluid situation, because previously to the separation, this guy was already a pro. And so technically he would have a pro card. Now, obviously there's the separation, and we don't know if he's gonna have to pursue a pro card or straight have his IFBB pro. To be fairly honest, whatever direction he goes, nobody would be upset if he competed straight with the pros. And I think if he won his pro card, he wouldn't be afraid either. So whatever happens, this guy is gonna be competing against the best.
So now we got him, and then from Russia, we have Vitaly Goodvito, which as an MC, I love when you come up with a name like Andrew Jacked, Quint Beastwood, because then I don't have to say Golnikov or whatever his real name is. I can just say Goodvito.
Yeah. Right.
So here's another just beast. He's got a different shape than
Michael
Krizo.
Well, I agree with Chris. If you look at Michael Krizo, I think he's older and he has more muscle density and better separation. But genetically speaking, Michael Krizo has a long torso, shorter legs,
tiny waist.
I'm not saying he's Paco Batista, but I'm saying he's no Brandon Curry on the genetic side. And I think Chris is right. In terms of upside, Vitaly Goodvito, who's younger, 25, large clavicle bones, small waist, might become a better bodybuilder. But again, we were talking about potential versus reality. He has bigger upside, but that doesn't mean he'll be better than Michael Krizo.
Thanks for taking all my points away. But that's okay. I will go with this. I like the young kid's back. His back is thick. At that age, at 25 years old, to have that type of thickness in his back is remarkable. And it's not just something you just come up with. You have to be, if you're born with a thick back, and great for you, but to have that and to have that over Krizo, that's awesome.
Okay, I know training around the world has advanced, diets advanced around the world, but I think of like Joe Weider in bigger, going around to these tiny towns and countries and finding some guy that's doing the work of a crane, lifting pallets of things and putting them on a shelf, and he's just naturally just Slovakian shredded. Is that what's happening, or is you train people around the world?
Oh, yes.
Kuwait. That's one of the top facilities in the world, and you wouldn't say, that's Gold's Gym Venice, but it's better. It's a different vibe.
Yes, well, Kuwait, Oxygen Gym did a remarkable job with the design. The design of those gyms is just off the charts. I mean, it's 4 different levels, huge Olympic-sized swimming pool, got 50,000 cardio equipment. They actually had, for real, 30 leg press side by side, 15 Smith machines side by side, and you actually use a cell phone from one side of the gym to the other to speak to someone. That's how big the gym is.
Well, yeah, what's happening, the NPC worldwide is expanding. And a lot of people, I go to Brazil all the time. And a lot of people say, oh man, Brazil is coming up so strong. And the reality is that some of these guys like Michael Krizo, Goodvito, and even previous generations, right, Chris, they have been there the whole time. But right now they have the opportunity to compete internationally and make it to the Mr. Olympia.
Which guy just moved? Was it Goodvito or Krizo that just moved to Brazil?
Goodvito moved to Brazil, and he's sponsored, he's doing well, and he should be turning pro very soon.
Did you get to look at him while you were down there?
I had a chance to look at him, and I'll tell you, the thing that impressed me the most was how large his clavicle bones are. We talk about genetics. This sport of bodybuilding, which we love, genetics plays a huge role. If you're born with a small waist and large clavicle bones, you're a step ahead. And this guy has very large clavicle bones. If he fills up, we could be talking about a freak on stage.
That's awesome. I like the wide clavicle physiques. Ramy, the champion, he's the widest body I've ever seen at 5'10" I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen some monsters.
You've seen, sorry to interrupt, you've seen Marcos Rule. Is Marcos Rule smaller than Big Ramy?
I would say smaller. I would say he's a big chest guy, Marcos Rule is, but Ramy's the biggest human I've ever seen, and I've actually trained him personally, and that quad, I'm talking, is the biggest leg I've ever seen on a human being.
My wife was backstage at the Olympia last year when everybody's taking the pictures and the winners are there, and Ramy turned sideways for that picture with the medal, and she said there are Kentucky Derby horses that would kill for hams and quads like that. Mm-hmm. Just front to back massive. Marcus was thick front to back, not side to side. Yeah. I thought he was just thick.
Yes, and Andrew Jack, he's a big human, but I actually saw Big Pun back in the day in Las Vegas.
The rapper?
His body was at least 400 some pounds rocking back and forth. I think Big Ramy could definitely show some size against him.
Well, yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what he's going to do at the Mr. Olympia. There's a lot of speculation. We'll have to discuss this.
But it is interesting how they keep finding people around the world to make that Toro stage, to make it to the Olympia. We're going to talk more about who's going to be at the Olympia and how they stack up next to each other when we come back.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
And we're back to Primetime Muscle. We're talking about are the best genetic athletes in the Classic Physique division. Chris, you have in your stable or people that you've worked with, one of my absolute favorites, Breon, who has phenomenal genetics.
Oh, yes. We've been building his body for at least the last 5 to 6 years. And it's just been, artistically put together. His back development is like almost second to none. His abs wasn't as genetically blessed, but we've been working on those too. And that's became more of a strength for him. The chest, everything has been like a little project. But we've been artistically putting his physique together for the last 5 or 6 years.
And as a pro judge, you got C-Bum, Terrence Ruffin, you got a couple new guys coming up that are just...
Ramon Dino, Urs Kalinski. Well, I'm going to answer the question. Are the best genetic athletes in Classic Physique, instead of selling my personal training business? The question is,
by the way.
The question is, are the best athletes in terms of genetics in Classic Physique rather than bodybuilding, if somebody wants to be really open about it? And the answer is yes. Yes. Chris Bumstead, Breon Ansley, Terrence Ruffin, Ramon Dino, Urs Kalinski, the top 5 of the Mr. Olympia, are genetically more gifted than the top 5 bodybuilders. You have to look at the bodybuilders. They have tremendous ability to gain size. But if you look at the lines, the shape of the Classic Physique guys, and then you add the conditioning of the Classic Physique guys, I'm saying right now the Classic Physique guys are becoming the most genetically gifted category in bodybuilding. And you're starting to look at the popularity. The most beloved guy in our industry in terms of followers on IG, Instagram, his name is Chris Bumstead.
Yes, and they're also bringing the aspect of paying close attention to the posing. That's one thing I give to the classic guys because they are definitely trying to hit every muscle group in their body when they're posing. Some of the open guys, they're a little lax on the upper thigh cuts, a little lax with the stomach and everything. The classic guys got it going on.
And you've got to be somewhat genetically gifted and attuned to the fact you've got to stay within a height and weight. That's the beauty of Classic Physique. It's not even the beauty of physique right now because these guys are beasts. Half of them wouldn't make classic weight. Come on.
That's one of the things that maybe we're talking about conditioning. These guys are coming with impeccable conditioning. Their lines are beautiful. And Chris had a great point. It hurts me to say it, but he did have a good point. These guys...
If you hit Chris anymore, the candy's going to come out.
These guys are paying attention to the posing. You talk about like Terrence Ruffin. He's an artist. He is an artist, Oh, yeah. Chris Bumstead, he's practicing his classic pose. They are doing a great job. We got to give credit where credit is due. And a lot of the bodybuilders, they have to look at the Classic Physique guys and say, why are they becoming so popular? You're talking about paying attention to the posing, which a lot of times minimizes your waist, and their conditioning is very good.
I just saw Logan Franklin at the Lila Brada Classic. Stunning lines, amazing posing. That's a big dude. But that's another thing about Classic Physique, is it, like physique, is attainable. The average guy can sit home, well, they think it's attainable, but it's hard. But the average guy that goes to the gym goes, that's how I want to look. Not necessarily a mass monster. We admire and worship the mass monsters. But those classic guys have a line that I think the average guy aspires to.
I have to bring up the fact that the crowd is just going ballistic when those classic guys are up there competing. It is vicious, it is rowdy, it is crazy. Everyone leaves there sweating because everyone is so in tune and so involved in what they're doing on stage. What do you think, Terry?
I agree with you, Chris. And the key question is, if we had Classic Physique 30 years ago, and we had a guy like Chris Cormier, Flex Wheeler. I think Chris was heavier than Flex. But Flex, when he won the USA's at 217 and he's 5'11", he would have made it into Classic. He could have been 10-time Classic Physique champion. Milosarcev, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful physique. He would have been in Classic Physique. Sean Ray, maybe 212, maybe Classic. So the implementation of the Classic Physique was a genius, a brilliant move. We have the men's physique. But I got to give credit to the competitors, man. When you pose like Terrence Ruffin, when you come as conditioned as some of these guys, is because you really love bodybuilding. They're great bodybuilders. They're in the Classic Physique division, and I give them a lot of respect.
Here's the tough part, envisioning going back in time to your era. Classic Physique is built on your era. It's built on you guys and Gaspari and Labrada and that posing that Barry DeMay and I'm trying to think of one of the other real classic, the Ed Corney years. But then if there was Classic 25, 30 years ago, it would have been based on Charles Atlas and some guy with a squirrely mustache.
Yeah.
What kind of bad conditioning was around 50s and 60s? It was the best conditioning they had. But this was built on a really solid era, 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I think if we had Classic Physique, then you look at Lee Haney. Lee Haney would have been a bodybuilder, no doubt about it. He was big, he was massive. And then you had guys like Tom Platz. He would have been a bodybuilder. But then you can look back at Muhammad Makawi. He would have been Classic.
Zane,
Chris Dickerson, all those guys. I love the fact that now we've divided these divisions, like the UFC. You know, you have the heavyweights, you have the lightweights, and you have the middleweights. It makes it interesting, and it opens a huge door for young consumers to pick what they want.
And it's all different competitions. The heavyweights are knocking people out quick. The lightweights are patting at each other. The women are submitting each other and kicking each other in the head. But bodybuilding, guess what? Don't look now, but I think we now have bodybuilding stars. We have stars back in bodybuilding that the old heads was looking down like, I don't know if you guys cut the mustard yet. But now I could say the young bulls are back, and I think they're ready, and I think we now have stars in the world of bodybuilding.
Well, and the thing, you look back in time, they had light heavyweight for a while with the Danny Padillas, and then they would put them up for an overall.
Yeah.
And now you've got 212 for that, where you've got trophy size guys like Sean Clarita.
Yeah.
Where, the open guy should get Sean Clarita when he wins. Here you go. You get Flavio Baccanini, or you get Sean Clarita, and you hold that up like a trophy and go, here's the little fella I just won. He's bronze and he's perfect.
Yeah.
So you won't see the giant killers anymore if it weren't for the other divisions for them to dominate.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Sean Clarita had a chance. He went in Reno and he won. He beat Sergio Oliva. He beat Regan Grimes, if I'm not mistaken. And Kamal almost beat Akeem Williams at the Tampa Pro. But now a lot of these guys are in the 212. I want to bring back what Chris said. Yeah, bodybuilding has kind of a revival. We were down. A lot of people were saying, well, all the great guys are in Classic Physique, and I still believe genetically we're talking about them. But Chris is right. You have Blessing, who's a riot. Nick Walker, who's so confident. Hunter Labrada is awesome. You got this guy, Andrew Jacked. And then you got the foreigners, Vitaly Goodvito, Michael Krizo. And then when you forget about the top guys, here comes a video on Instagram of Big Ramy looking insane. So I think there's now a revival of bodybuilding, and I think that's why this Mr. Olympia is going to be one for the ages.
When you're talking about Ramy at 336, and then a classic guy, what's Chris coming in about 220, 225? He's 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, he's quite tall. Something about 215, 220.
But coming down from 260 pounds, these guys, that's one thing I'm thinking, man. So when they get down, they're like really ripped up and ready to go, but they're actually coming down from 260 pounds in off season.
But they're so well, and right now Logan was 227. I think he only has to come down to about 215, 220. So he's pretty close. But just muscle on top of muscle. But you're right, the conditioning of these guys, you've got to make every square inch count on that frame for that height and weight.
Yeah, I have a chance to look at these guys at check-ins, and then you look at them at prejudging, And then on the same day at the Mr. Olympia, you get to check other categories. You know, I mean, you look at the abs on the men's physique guys. Man, I gotta give a lot of respect to these guys. Andre Ferguson has probably one of the best abs in bodybuilding right now, and he's a men's physique competitor. You know, we are looking at different talent in different categories, and I think this is the golden age of bodybuilding.
Yes, and also you see the muscle insertions, like long muscle insertions embedded like longer than Terrick sleeves. And then you see the guys with the shredded glutes, they got that, they got the hamstrings tight. I mean, like I say, I'm just really excited about this year, and I'm happy to see.
Do you want to stay on topic, or do your sleeves want to make a statement?
My sleeves want to make a statement. There's going to be a comeback on you, Chris Cormier. I'm just. You can make fun of me as much as you want. We are so happy you're employed. Everybody in the industry. Okay, put the camera on me right now. Where's the camera?
There's his tight shot. There you go.
Everybody in the bodybuilding industry is so happy. Chris Cormier has a job, he's consistent, he can pay for all his child support that's backed up 15 years. Everybody is honored to have you employed, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone from the industry. I'm glad to be back. I'm ready to rock and roll. Real deal is back, baby!
Hall of Fame baby daddy, Chris Cormier. It is such a blast to be able to talk this through with you guys with the range of experience. And you've worked with everybody now. You've got a stable. How many people are in your? I'm plugging his services again.
Well, it's not. I don't like to keep a whole lot of people. I think it's very hard to have people.
Oh, sure, Chris. You got a lot of demand going on.
Bro, it's the attention to detail. How can you have 100 people?
There's millions of people hitting you up right now, Chris.
Well, there might be, but I know you don't want one of those trainers. If you've got some genetic freak that is trying to dial in those last 7 pounds and is texting you, you know, what are you eating? What do you want? You want a guy that's attentive. You got 30 people at the show.
Chris is one of the greatest trainers, bodybuilding trainers that we know. And I put Chris along with Charles Glass and guys that will take you to the gym, and have you lift weights with a certain intensity. I recommend guys, all young pros or pros that have been around, that if they have a body part that's not really coming up, go see Chris Cormier, go see some of these guys, not just these guys that send you diet over the internet, you know what I mean?
The gatekeeper.
Yeah, eat like a spoon of peanut butter and you'll be, you know,
little kosher salt, half a rice cake.
Guys that will actually take you to the gym and say, man, you need to work on your hamstrings, and these are the kind of exercises you need to execute, and this is the kind of intensity. Chris is one of those guys.
Well, when people come up to you after the show and they want those tips, they need to find somebody that's going to say, all right, these are the 2 areas you need to bring up. And you need to find a guy that's going to bring up those hamstrings or those high insertions of the lats that need to come down and tuck into the low back.
Yes, because you've seen people not that great of genetics. You don't have to have the best genetics, but you have to work the mindset behind what you're doing and the right people to put you in the right place and give you the right implements of training and posing, how to utilize that body to the greatest. And I think that's where you need to go with bodybuilding.
Yeah, Andrew Jacked, he's a great example. Andrew Jacked has an amazing physique. He won the Texas Pro, and you know he has, from the front and from the side, amazing shots. But Andrew Jacked is a guy that could definitely benefit from training with Chris, training with some of these guys that actually go to the gym with him. You know, George Farah is one of the great, you know, coaches, but maybe he doesn't have the ability to take Andrew to the gym all the time, and maybe they can get together and say, Chris, get this guy's back to just have that density. And I think that's where Chris comes, and he could be an asset to some of these guys that have been training for a long time, and there's a body part that's not coming up.
Well, speaking of coming up, we've got another segment coming up, and we're going to be talking about more of the sport and how to improve yourself and what to look for with the competitors when we come back. We're back to Primetime Muscle. Tim Wilkins along with Terrick Elguindy and the real deal Chris Cormier. And we're talking about the biggest two names for the last few years, Olympia, Brandon Curry and Big Ramy.
Yes, Big Ramy is the two-time Mr. Olympia. We have some pictures here of these guys. Now, a lot of people are talking about, oh, Big Ramy is not focused, his mind is not on the game, you know, and he shows up with a video on YouTube and he's looking incredibly massive.
336 kind of massive.
Yes. Now, guys, here's one of the things that we talk about Big Ramy. Whoa, hold on, I just had a drink, guys. So, one of the things about Big Ramy that people sometimes forget, it's a massive guy with a small waist. Okay, if his waist was big, we would be talking about Marcus Rule. But he has a small waist. And his conditioning is not the greatest, but you can see lines on the hamstrings. And, you know, this is not a pose like back double biceps where we're really going to see the detail, but you can see that he has some separation on his lat spread. This is one of the poses that not a lot of people in the history of bodybuilding is going to beat Big Ramy. This is going to be a challenge for Brandon Curry.
Now, they say contests are won from the back. The depth, the whip, the thickness, the rear delts, the rhomboids, the traps, everything in that has conditioning, and it's just massive.
Now, Tim, what you want to do as a bodybuilder, you know you're not going to win all the poses. Ronnie Coleman didn't have the greatest abs, and that's why he hit the side shot, because he wanted to show his obliques. What you want to do as a bodybuilder is diminish the difference that somebody is beating you. Okay, so you're losing to Big Ramy on this pose. But if Brandon can have more lines on the hamstring, which we're not talking about mass, we're talking about conditioning. If he can beat him down there, he can beat him on the glutes, and he can add some separation on the lats, then he diminishes the difference of losing that pose to Big Ramy. And then on the back double biceps, which is detail, which is lines, then he can beat Big Ramy on that. It's diminishing the difference when you're losing.
I actually thought Ramy could have more separation in that back, especially with the back lat spread. I mean, if I could see, I mean, you're talking about Mr. Olympia, you're talking about the best in the world, the best we have on the planet. So I'm asking more out of Mr. Olympia.
So to that end, to defend that title, because a lot of times they'll lean to the title holder. You know, you got to beat the king. What does he have to do to hold that title this year? Or what does Brandon or one of the other top 5 have to do to take it away?
Big Ramy has to be better than Big Ramy of last year to win this title. Last year is not going to cut it. We have too many guys that's coming up, the Nick Walkers of the world, Brandon Curry. I mean, all these guys, they're gunning for that title, and they're thinking about it every single day. I know Big Ramy has just showed and resurfaced himself as a dominant force in the sport, but, I mean, you got to be better than we had last year.
Chris is right. You need to beat Big Ramy for 2021. This pose is one of the poses where Big Ramy is going to dominate. There's a few guys that can go in here and open a back lat spread and have this kind of mass. We're talking about, Nick Walker. Maybe even Ian Valliere has that open back, but this is one of the poses where it's going to be challenging and you want to close the difference. But Brandon Curry can beat Big Ramy in other poses with conditioning and his lines, and that's the challenge.
Now, he's given up 50, 60 pounds in this shot right here.
Correct.
And probably 30 of that is back.
Yeah.
That's a lot to give up. So, Chris, now we're looking at the front. We're just seeing just a size difference in every direction.
Yes, that's the thing. He has size over everyone in the sport, and that's his X factor. That's what he gets from his genetics. We have more aesthetic genetics out of Brandon Curry. I like this most muscular on him. He's showing all his cuts and all his attributes to the fullest. Arms are absolutely sideways in this pose. That's what you want to have when you're showing the most muscular like that. Like I say, I would like to have more muscularity out of Ramy, and I've seen it, so I know he can do it. I've seen it firsthand, and I'm telling you, this guy, he still has it. I think he still can get that title.
Now, this somewhat of a side chest here, you talk about Brandon showing, or different people showing the obliques over the abs, but you guys really talk a lot about the swoop on the hams And Ramy's just got that in every direction.
Oh, yes, and that's where you see Curry's deficiency right here. But also, I'd like to see him get more out of his physique. If you get those shoulders to be parallel or level and stop being lackadaisical in the stomach right here, you can get that to be flat. That's a whole nother pose and a whole nother dimension. That's taking full advantage of the poses, and when the judges see that, then that's what they want to see when they're giving you points.
Tim, this is one of the poses that Brandon Curry needs to attack Big Ramy. Now, Chris is correct. When we look at those hamstrings, the difference is dramatic here. But Brandon Curry has a smaller waist than Big Ramy. And if you look at his shoulder, his chest, the separation there is quite attractive. It draws your eyes. Now, if he presses the abs even more with a small waist, he's going to look more aesthetically pleasing. That's one of the poses he has a chance to beat Big Ramy. But like Chris said, look at the hamstrings. Oh, this is a game changer right here. You know, we're looking at the upper body and Brandon looks great. Ramy might lose the upper body here because Brandon has great separation. He's aesthetically pleasing. But when you come down, you see that Big Ramy is overpowering and he has that beautiful line on the hamstrings. If Brandon puts some hamstrings, he can eventually beat Big Ramy on this shot.
Now, not a lot of guys show their hamstrings in their behind the scenes, I'm 16 weeks out picture. So we don't know what's going on with Brandon there. The posing's got to be a thing where so many guys in the last few years, last 10 to 12 years, have had that Ninja Turtle external shell of a stomach that everyone's been trying to dial in. Is that what Brandon's doing right there? And can he do that with posing, or is that a training thing to pull that in?
It's a training thing. You gotta pay attention to your breathing. You gotta pay attention to your posing at all times. The judges are looking. If we see an abdominal section which is pronating forward and it looks unattractive, you can lose the Mr. Olympia. We know the history of Mr. Olympia. So when you practice your posing, you need to pay attention to your abdominal. Obviously, you need to breathe, but if your abs are coming out, if your gut is huge, you are going to be marked down. That's just the bottom line of bodybuilding. We don't want to see guys with big guts on stage.
Do you like how tactful he was not naming names right there?
I like that.
Of who lost the Olympia from a gut.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, guys. It's not just one bodybuilder. It's a plethora of bodybuilders that are failing to control their abdominal. Now, some of them have had injuries. Some of them, the abs are just not being controlled. Whatever it is, posing is a critical part of bodybuilding. You can't win a bodybuilding show just with physique, just with conditioning and lines. You got to know how to pose. Know your strengths and know your weakness. Quote me on this one, okay? Posing is the art of hiding your weaknesses and displaying your strengths. And every Mr. Olympia should know that.
Terrick, but a lot of these guys are giving it the last 4 weeks, the last 6 weeks before the World Championship, the best in the world. You got to give it a couple of months. You got to be 10 weeks out working on your posing and working on your endurance.
Another guy from your era, Sean Ray, is adamant about posing 8, 10, 12 weeks out because he said it brings out the density of a muscle and brings it all to the surface and really brings in the fine lines a lot of these guys are missing now.
Oh, yes. That's like going up there. They all notice when they go to the prejudging, they do a lot of posing. Everyone's coming back looking 10 times better at the night show. A lot of conditioning and sharpness.
Well, and they're pulling a lot of water at prejudge.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of full-size beach towels up there sopping up that water.
And you can do that all along the way to the competition. Along the way to the competition, you're posing like you're competing. That's how you get the prime conditioning.
So I'll ask as a coach, and we'll ask as a judge. We know now Ramy's got to beat Ramy 21. He's got to come in Ramy 22. What does Brandon have to do to stand next to him and get that title back?
He needs sharpness. He needs granite sharpness. You see a lot of blurry lines with him sometimes. You see the posing. He did work on his posing a lot out there in Oxygen Gym. He just needs to get back to the drawing board and make sure he gets as clean as line as possible. That's the best chance he has.
So, Tim, there's a lot of factors to winning a bodybuilding show. And if you look at Big Ramy's mass, you're not going to beat him with mass. You're just not. The reality is Big Ramy is going to outmass everybody on that stage. But you have other factors. Posing is one of them. Your lines, your conditioning. And that's where Brandon Curry needs to attack. And like Chris said, the conditioning. If Brandon Curry is more conditioned than Big Ramy, then he's beating him on one criteria. Now we got the shape, now we got the posing, and all those things come into play. It is about him coming in more conditioned and beating Big Ramy on that criteria.
Well, we're going to find all that out, but I'm also curious this year, because this year you've got a lot of guys that could shake up the top two. So not only do these guys have to beat their old selves and beat each other, you've got so many young guns that are so hungry. We keep saying Nick Walker, but Nick Walker's a dominant force. Andrew Jack just made a heck of a debut in Texas. You got Hunter Labrada, I just saw guest pose, he's pushing 300 pounds. So we'll see what he dials down to. It's going to be interesting to see how they dice up that top five.
Yes, and Hunter has the epitome of training. I don't even know what to call it. It's informing. It's I don't know. I went there a few months ago. His father had that thing lit up. They got their factory with their nutrition. They got the state-of-the-art gym. He's picking up pieces that he wants personally. He has 5 blenders. He has 4 microwaves. We went to eat lunch in there. I was just like, damn, like 5 blenders. That's bodybuilding land right there.
I got to train with Lee in that Win-the-Day gym, and it was like Little Timmy's Make-A-Wish.
Oh, yeah.
I got to check that off my bucket list.
Yes.
Oh, I'm hungry just listening to Chris talk.
Well, guys, great first show. Great first show.
Thank you, brother.
And,
good to be here.
We got so much more ahead. We got much more primetime muscle. Keep tuned in. Subscribe, like, share this with your friends. We're going to be talking about every aspect of bodybuilding, all the divisions. Send us notes about your favorites and who you want to talk about, people you want to highlight, guests you'd like to see us have. I'm Tim Wilkins, the real deal Chris Cormier, the one and only Terrick Elguindy. We'll see you soon.